Cool. My name is David Wise. I'm the creative director here at MFG. This is Cortland. And we're a multidisciplinary design studio anchored around principles of care, collaboration, and partnership, working with individuals, creatives, and brands to bring things to life. Ellipsis Lecture Series started 3 years ago as a means and an initiative to connect disparate voices, removing the bounds of geography and trying to bring together like-minded individuals or people that inspire us. This is the last lecture of the third series. And today we have Maximilian of Daily Dialogue and Squama. So take it away.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. Yeah, nice to be here and improvise a bit on what I do. Yeah, when you got in touch, we were like chatting a bit on what I could do and what not. And I think a lot of things that I feel are important is like the things that are like happening, or like the things that you could read between the lines. So I feel like I didn't really want to like prepare like more of a portfolio showcase rather than just going through a lot of things and then some things will pop up here and there that might be interesting for you, and then we can talk about it. Yeah, so I'm sharing my screen. And I can start with this one. 439 weeks ago. I think David, you asked me like where the name Daily Dialogue comes from, and that was by like a good friend of mine, Moritz Oberberger, a very good artist and illustrator, and also like graphic designer, based in Amsterdam, very good friend of mine. He and I, we were working together like in our studies and after the studies back in, I don't know when, like 2012 or something. We were working a lot and chatting a lot over WhatsApp, and then we were like having this daily dialogue about things. And then at a certain moment when I needed to go the next step in my freelance, or like I don't want to call it a career, but the way I would go, I needed to create this kind of studio because I didn't really feel like communicating with my own name. And then that whole daily dialogue thing, I just took that and worked with it, because I also felt like that's like a daily dialogue is something that if you deal with something a lot and something you want to progress and grow in, then that's like a daily dialogue that you have to do with, like you have to have with a thing to make it grow. And so that's where the name comes from. And yeah, I think I'm starting here with daily dialogue in a very early stage, because I think it was a very important step for me to create the studio, because after my studies, I graduated in 2014, and directly after that, a friend of mine, Philip Polder, a very good designer and developer, I'm sure you've seen a few websites he did. He and I, and another friend, Pavel, we won a pitch for like a big youth radio station here in Bavaria, and we did that for a year, and that helped a lot to like grow into working like freelance and self-employed. And there was a good time. We were just like dropping out of school and having our own studio, like very cheap studio, shitty place, but was fun. And we were just working there, doing a few things here and there. And then I don't know, a year later or so, it stopped, and we were a bit like, okay, now what do we need to do? And I felt like I needed to create this brand that helped me to promote my own work and to help me to grow this whole thing. And I never really felt comfortable with like putting my own name and like, here is Max doing good graphic design work. So the whole Daily Dialogue brand was like established to grow into something. And then, yeah, I did, I don't know, a few jobs here and there. And like, I think, I mean, it's not so, you can look that up if you feel like it's very early stuff and still on there. But I think it was just a good time to like learn stuff, like try out, work a lot, like try to find out how to run a business, how to work with clients. At, I don't know, I think a year later or so, in 15 or 16, I also started to study at Art Academy, like fine arts with Olaf Nicolai. I don't know if anyone in the States knows him, but he's quite a famous artist in Germany. Conceptual artist, and that was a very good time for me too, because like I had a good options to work as a graphic designer in the class, and like did a few nice projects, and also like the way like in art school, how like the whole process of thinking, like how like concepts are made, it's very different to this design school. And I felt it was very a good thing, and it helped a lot for Daily Dialogue when it came to working with artists or like publishers and museums and institutions. So that was a very good thing. And yeah, that was like one of the first projects that I did there, like just a small flyer, but it was a starting point, and I think it's just good to come back to stuff like that. What I also always did in the beginning was like to try and create own projects, so something like a little photo publication like this. And I think it was just it, and I think it was, and it still is, a good thing, like as a brand, if you want to call a graphic design studio a brand. But I feel it's just a good thing to show, like, or to make your own projects, like where you can just like showcase stuff that you feel like that's the way it should be done, and just like as a good example of what you would like to do. Because after all, I feel like the things you present, that's what like people can ask you to do like for themselves. So yeah, that was the thing. And I think that went on like for a few years, like doing like skateboard magazines and like these lookbooks that we're still doing today, like working for friends and like little jobs here and there. And then I think around, when was that? 16 or something, I was like working for a fashion brand from Munich, a kind of guys. I was working for them like over the years, like a lot, but more as like doing stuff that they wanted, like little invitations for like different seasons and so on and so on. And then at some point, I got the chance to work on the rebranding. Like it was very subtle rebranding. We did a new logo and we did this new hang tags and stuff. But it was a very good step for Daily Dialogue as a studio, because it was like a next level that we could go in presenting like a fashion brand that we did. And that's why I like in that time I was really like trying to like make a good documentation of it. Like as you've seen, like things were a bit like messy here, and then we tried to like bring up and make like better photography and so on and so on. And I'm just mentioning this because it was working like that. So from that moment, like when we presented that and had a new website, things really like went more in that direction. And I think a key project that came out of the whole A Kind of Guys rebranding that I was just referring to was a brand, like a job that we got from that was for a Spanish production company called Cap. It's this one with that logo. They do a lot of amazing work, and they were really like very early supporters of our studio. And it was just very interesting to see how things developed from like, I think you always need like one right step, and then things go from there. And that was definitely the thing, like A Kind of Guys. I know that Antonio, shout out, really nice guy, from CAP, founder. He was a fan of A Kind of Guys, and I'm pretty sure that he came because of that project, and then things went from there. And also like looking at stuff like this, art publications for museums. That was also because I was in art school, and my professor there, my teacher, Olaf Nicolai, he was working on that exhibition. It's in Nuremberg, and there was like a 3-part thing, and it was really good to see that you do like things for free. You do all these catalogs for the school and all of that stuff, and you invest a lot, and then at some point you can do stuff for institutions. And yeah, that's maybe interesting to mention. And yeah, things developed. Marlin Schönberg, my business partner now, she joined 2018. And I think like also from there, it was really interesting to see she brought in like a whole different like, I don't want to say different approach, but things really became more professional on a business level with her. Like we were 2 people, and she was like, I was always the graphic designer, or just like thinking about design and how things can look better and be better. And she is really the one who was thinking ahead, like what can we do now? How can we make sure that things work out, and do we need to call somebody back and stuff like that? And like it was really a good thing that we came together and let this thing grow. And then coming back to Daily Dialogue, or calling it my name and stuff like that, it was really easy to like implement somebody and bring it into the brand and then go from there. I mean, yeah, not that easy, because obviously a lot of things were like shaped after my ideas, and then you need to like open that up again and then make it like a new thing. But it was, yeah, I think it's really good to see that things are flexible and develop. And I think that really now looking at all of this, what I did in the last days to prepare this lecture, I was really seeing like that things got much better over time. And I think that's just a very good thing to see. So yeah, like also the Zara connection was coming over, like Cap, the brand from Spain, and so on and so on. And I think that's how things went with Daily Dialogue. Like really, we just like grew into this thing, did a lot of music stuff and more publications. And then we started for an architecture studio, did a few publications, still working for them. And then out of that whole lifestyle fashion thing, like we did more and more identities, because we didn't do that until that moment so much. And then things went on. And I think, yeah, that's just it. And now we're a part of like a team of 4 people right now. Yannis is there, and Laura. And yeah, we have a good time. We're always like thinking of how to make it more, like how to make the time worth for us. How can we work in a better way? How can we work in a good way with our clients? How can we evolve and go on and go on? And I think really the whole idea of process is key to us, I think. So that was Daily Dialogue. I mean, we could talk about this more and more, but I feel like that's just one part. That's like very collaborative partnership and teamwork. And then I have also my own practice, which mainly is like played out in the record label Squama that I do with Martin Brugger. I'm separating this, not so like, I would say Daily Dialogue is more teamwork, because like their design decisions are made like more as a team. Squama, it's like a bit of a different situation, because my partner in Squama, he's a music producer, and like design is not like his key thing. And I think the good thing in running a record label is that we have like these two sides, like musical and visual, and like for each of that departments, like Martin and I, we trust each other a lot, but we also like don't get in the way of each other. So I think Squama is really an interesting project, because I think with having Daily Dialogue in the background and being able to have that stable, I don't want to say income, because it's not about money, but it's more like I have that stability of having something that was like, that is like grown into something that's more stable. And then it was just a good backbone that I could use for like Squama to be very free, and that doesn't really have to, how can I say that? It didn't really need it to fulfill anything in the beginning. And I think that was a really good thing for Martin and me. We were just like very naive, like publishing music and starting. And we did that in 2019 for Faza, or you could say Phaser's second record, Nadi. We founded the record label, and then I think for the first, I mean, there was also like COVID and pandemic, and things were slow anyway, but also we were also like very slow, like how we were working. We were not really focused on doing a lot. And I think for the first 1, 2, 3 years, we were not publishing too much. And then I can't really like tell when things like became more busy, but I think it naturally happened. And now it's like a very good place to create like, or to realize like ideas that we have and that we want to like to see live in the real world, that you like never really get a chance to do when you're like doing something like as a designer for somebody else, because it's like it's not affordable, or it's too much work that you have to put in yourself, and so on and so on. And Squama is like it's an utopia where we can like try and do the things that we just want to see. And now that it grew into something that has like a quite good reach, or like that is a good platform, we also want to use it and give it to other people, you know, like other designers that we trust, musicians that we trust, where we like the stuff. And it's just a very good platform that we want to use and present like the people that we believe in. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I could show. I mean, it's really a lot. I mean, that's maybe interesting. It's just like a huge printing plate, like for hot foil embossing, and it's, you know, it's not so special like in general, but it was just something that we could only afford because we had some money left over, like from another job that we did, and like we had that money at the print shop, and then I had that record coming out, and I thought, okay, how can I use that money in a very like efficient way? And it was just good to use that hundreds of dollars and put it in that printing plate and then emboss that whole record with it. And it's just something, if you would probably get like a artwork job from somebody and you would like suggest to do something like that, I don't know if you can like get it done because it's probably too expensive. But it was just something that we could afford because we were like in that situation where it was just possible. And I think that's just what we're trying to do. We just like take chances and try to see what we can do ourselves, or where there's a good moment to do something. And yeah, I think that's just how we're operating there, like with a lot of things. Maybe one project that was quite special this year and also like showcases the idea of the label, or how we want to like present it, or how we want to use it, was the exhibition Squama B-Sides that I realized in Tokyo this year. That was this thing here. I had this idea, or like let's start from scratch. Like last year I was in Tokyo and then visited Print Gallery Tokyo. And Hiro, the owner from the gallery, he offered me to exhibit some of my works. And then I thought, I don't know, I was not really interested in just like bringing my stuff there and putting it on a wall. That would have been nice, but it would have also been quite boring for me. And I don't know what I would get out of that. So I think that's when I thought, okay, now, like, what can I do now? How can I use that space, like that platform? And then I thought, I was always jealous of Martin, my partner at Squama, because he goes to a studio and then records with like other people, and there is so much improvisation and collaboration. And as a graphic designer, there's so much time that you spend alone, and you don't really collaborate, and it's not very free and not spontaneous and intuitive. And then I thought, I just want to like create that moment where we can also just like improvise. So I thought, what if we use that like remix concept that you have in music and bring it to like visual arts? And then I thought, maybe I can ask like a few friends of mine, or like designers that I admire, or artists, and then ask them if they can make like a remix work, like from the Squama back catalog, whatever it is. Can be like the music, can be like record cover, can be the words, can be whatever, and to create a new work. And then that was the exhibition. And yeah, that was quite interesting. And so that was the invitation that we did. And then we did like from the visual that we created. I can also talk a bit about the visual maybe later, where it comes from. I had this idea of bringing that visual like into the exhibition in different layers. And one layer was like the idea of producing merch, like this merch booth idea of, if you would go to like a show, like a concert, and then you have that merch booth situation. And I wanted to have something that people can take with or get. And I also wanted to people need to go to the exhibition to get it. So it was not sold online. It was not something that I produced in high numbers. So what I did was I went to Tokyo secondhand shops, bought a lot of like secondhand t-shirts, and then we printed this thing in black and in white. And the idea was that we covered like the original print with like that with that book, with the idea of calling it a cover version, like also that double wordplay of music cover version and then covering that original print. And we also did that in a like not always, but I really like that idea of like low contrast covering. So like really here, like printing in white on white and covering that original print. And yeah, that was like one layer of the exhibition that I really enjoyed. And what I also liked a lot was that it somehow went like it, I mean, not that it's important to me, but it had quite a good performance on Instagram. So a lot of people came to the exhibition because they wanted to have that t-shirt. And it was just good to see that people like go to places and try to get something like in real life and not just ordering online. So I think that was something that we really like took, and we will definitely try to continue this. And we'll have one event later this month in Munich where we'll continue this idea. And yeah, so I'm showing you a few impressions of the exhibition now. That was like a walkthrough. That was like the merch booth that I was referring to. That was mainly the stuff that I created, like my work, and then the rest of the stuff was here overall, like in the exhibition room. So that was, and then another thing was that maybe I'm jumping now a bit. I hope you can follow me. It's very, very layered, but that's just the way I work, and that's just the way I like things. So the whole visual came from that thing. We like in 23 we had like a jazz in a jazz festival. We had like a stage for 2 nights. And I needed to create a visual for that. And, you know, it's always like something I feel very uncomfortable with, creating a visual for some event. I don't know. I don't know, a digital visual, it just gives me like weird vibes. I don't know. I just can't do it. And then I found this website where they had all these books and they presented it in a weird way of having these hands there. And then I thought I just make this mock-up and put the visual there. And it was just so nice to see, because it was more like an announcement of a visual, but everyone wanted to have that book, but it was not real, and it never was. And it exploded on Instagram. Again, I don't really care, but it was just interesting to see how many like likes you can get on something that is not real, you know? And with even showing that it's not real. And then when it came to the Tokyo exhibition, I was really like thinking, okay, now like there is something that worked really well and it was never real. So how can I make it as real as possible? And then I just took that visual as the idea for like that whole Tokyo thing. So one idea was like, obviously it was always like announcement visuals, and then it became that t-shirt. And then and now I'm coming back. And then I also wanted to have that book, but I didn't really have content for a book. So I was creating this thing that you can see here now. I actually made it real now. So we created like a book jacket that we were producing, and the whole text was like in the, how do you say, flap? Mm-hmm. And then when I was in Tokyo, I was buying like huge amounts of secondhand manga books, and then we put it around there. So we had that whole shelf of books that was not actually books. but it was just nice to, as I said, like make it as real as possible. And so that was one thing. And then here again, a few of the t-shirts. It was here on the door. It was in the book. That was the opening. That's me and Abe-san from the gallery. Yeah. And that's like a poster we created a few years ago, and then we were printing on there. So yeah, that's like that whole Tokyo exhibition thing. It's just a favorite project of mine right now because it has so many layers, and it was really like a good thing to where I could just like present a lot of ideas that I have about how to do things, you know, like not very obvious, like very around the corner thought, and not so like without any commercial ideas behind it. It was just like a very fun project, and it was amazing to get to know benchmarks and having conversations with Hassan, and like I was on a daily basis talking to my friend Jonas from Atlas Studio, and like all of the people there, Marie, who was our first intern, Colin Dörfler, I'm sure you know him, and Angie, she's an artist on our label. Ju, a very good artist here from Munich, originally from Seoul, Korea. Moritz, the guy I was talking about, the friend who I had daily dialogue with in the first place. And it was just a good thing to bring in your friends and to create some, like to make a new combination of friends too. So that's just like a very important project for me when I'm talking about like using the label as a platform to like publish or promote your own ideas or ideals, how you want to do things, how you want to present your ideas. Yeah, I guess that's like it. I mean, I can show you the latest record that we brought out that is also interesting in terms of maybe concepts or ideas. I mean, sometimes it's more like a little design idea that you have that you try to promote, and sometimes it's more like a whole concept that runs through. And with Faser, the band we started the label originally with, now they came back at catalog number 30 already. And Martin and I, like Martin, the guy I run the label with, he's also like founder of Faser, the band. And when it came to their new album, like I suggested to him that we call it Yamaha, because I found out that Yamaha has a motorbike line that is called Phaser. And then we were just using that and trying to like work, like we had the name of the album before the album existed. So, and then we built like everything around it. And it was really just a good thing to just like let it go and let it flow and see where it goes. And then like at first I just found like one visual and I thought that's it. And then when I was like researching it, there were so many things that I was finding. So that's like from the motorbike, and we used it for the label. And then I found that bear sticker, we made a sticker, but that's from Yamaha, genuine, like a parts and accessory brand that they have. I'm not sure if they are still using it. And we took it, and that's also like a visual that was like very, very badly done, like just like threshold of like a plastic bag that's underneath and a sticker, and like a lot of visuals that we could just take and then put it together and like redo, and then they were creating this whole artwork. And here you can see it, like there's many things, like there's a manual. That's the original motorbike key that I used. That's like a sticker sheet. That's also like these sticker sheets that you could order if like your sticker is like peeling off or so, I don't know, from your motorbike, and then you can order them again and put it back. And I think it was just very interesting to like use all of that and make it like a whole concept, and then it gets an own life again. So yeah, here you can see it where I took it from. So yeah, I think that's maybe also like a good example of what we try to do there, like just promoting ideas, things, like ways how you can do things.
Cool.
Now I talked a lot. I hope it was okay.
No, it was good. I think like one of the things that you said kind of halfway through, I thought was like kind of interesting. You had mentioned like about being a designer sometimes can be like a very like isolating, or like I think you may have even said like a lonely thing. Like it's like a soul, like you are the designer driving the idea in the same way that like a conceptual artist is driving the idea for the artwork. But then, like you're running a studio, and at the same time, you are running a label with another individual that you both trust each other. But like, is there any overlap or like contrast from like the way that you, for the lack of a better word, perform within Daily Dialogue versus like the way that you perform within Squama, like as a person, like within your practice, if that question makes sense?
I think that's when I said like Daily Dialogue is more of a teamwork, and it needed to grow into this. Like it was also like, I think Daily Dialogue was also a bit as Squama is now for the first couple of years. And then when Marlin joined and now Yannis is there and Laura is there, I needed to step back and let it become like a thing that we do as a team.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's quite tricky somehow, because as a designer, you have your own ideas, and sometimes you want to like do things the way you want to do it. And I think like with clients, that is already like a thing, but then within a team internally, it can also be a thing. And I feel for me, it was really like one of the best things that I could learn was to like step back and like give like power to the team in that sense, and let them do the thing even without me. So like last year, the first time when I went to Japan, I had like a little mini sabbatical for 2 months, and that was really the first time when I was stepping out and giving like the whole thing, handing it over to Marlin, like without me being there. And I think that helped a lot, like for everyone. It was like good for me, it was good for her. And so yeah, I think that's really the thing. But with Squama, I think I'm also like somebody who has ideas, and I want them to be the way I want them. And it's really it's important for me that I can sometimes do whatever I feel is right. And I think that's why for me it's really important that I have these two outlets. It's like the only way I can do it.
Cool.
But I definitely...
Yeah, I just think it's it's kind of interesting because to be honest, I hadn't ever gone that far back on like Daily Dialogue's Instagram, like seeing like the early stuff. I think the first time I saw your work was around the time of the publications with like Olaf Nikolai, like some of that earlier stuff, and like and then like a lot of the magazine work. And it's really interesting to see how there is a through line of you as an individual, but then like how you had mentioned at a certain point, like the team started to grow, things became more professionalized, and like you started to like think about like the process of like working with other people and working with clients and doing larger scale projects. And like now, like I think Squama is like this place where I see like a vast, like it's really diverse. It's not, in some ways, like from release to release, like there's an attitude from like within the artwork, but then there's like completely different facets. So like it does really seem like this playground for expression. But one of the things that like I wanted to ask is like, when you are working on things, like, is it almost like you're clearing your mind and then like almost starting from like a completely blank slate, like going from release to release, especially now as Squama has like ramped up the number of things that are coming out a year? Like it has like definitely ramped up. Like the catalog is like is large.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to hear you talk.
I think, I mean, it really depends, you know. Sometimes you have, sometimes, as I said, it's more like taking a chance that you have for an idea that you always wanted to do. Sometimes you have no ideas and then somebody gives you something and then it can be a quick thing. I mean, it's never a quick thing because I'm just like not so easy in that sense. But I think, you know, you have all of these ideas in the back of your head that you want to do. I mean, or for me, that's, I have all these references and all these ideas that I want to realize. And I think it's really right now in a very good and self-confident way, just like taking and using those ideas and then bringing them to life the best I can, and without making it too complicated. Because I think there is times when you need to make things complicated and when you need to think a lot. But right now is a time where I have to do so many things in such a short time that it's just about getting things done. And then you should just like go with one idea that you have and do it, and then do the next one. And I think for me, that really helps. It makes things more clear and more simple, and that makes it stronger. I just don't enjoy these nights where I sit in front of InDesign trying to do something and then I fuck it up, you know. I think I'm more somebody who has ideas and create a system that creates the design rather than sitting there and doing the design work. I mean, I can do that, but there's so much better graphic designers that still have the energy to sit down and really like polish until it's really good. I don't have that anymore. Like, I'm just impatient in that sense, and I don't want to do it. I want to have like something, and I want to polish it obviously, but I want to have ideas, and then I want to, first of all, I want to have a good process, you know. I want to have a good time while doing it, and sitting in front of the computer in InDesign, like pushing something a bit more here and there, that's just not a good time for me anymore, you know. I want to have that collaborative studio situation that Martin has with other musicians. I want to have a good time, you know.
Yeah. One of the other things that I wanted to ask about, because, you know, the format that you gave, like the talk, you know, you were scrolling through Instagram. Oftentimes, Instagram does portray like a very isolated like perspective or point of view of something. You know, that's the whole point of it. But in our, like, you know, for the lack of a better word, pre-interview, you talked about this like idea of like the struggle and like the process. And I'm wondering if you could maybe speak to a little bit of like some of the things that you've learned, or some of like the moments when both starting, you know, even your practice before Daily Dialogue, or starting or growing Daily Dialogue or Squama, like points where there was like some tension that you had to kind of like push through. I'm wondering if there's anything like that you could share. Kind of growing pains, if you will. You know?
There's always like struggles and always like ideas that you need, like things that you need to solve. I think that's what I mean with like, it needs to develop all the time. Like, progress is the only thing that's like important. I feel like you just have to like accept it, and then things are more easy. And I feel, I don't know, it was also, I think, you can't really tell, because going back, it was maybe important that I was like very, like, I don't want to say gatekeeping to the Daily Dialogue brand in the first years, because it was so important to me, it was like my first child. And then like with like somebody joining that, like as if somebody becomes a second parent of something, that's like a difficult thing to do. And I think for me and Marlon, it was like, definitely there was tension in like her becoming like equal in that whole thing, but it was the best thing that could happen, that I opened it up, and that she was like having the strength to go like into this and grow into this. And now it's so good to see that she loves the studio so much that it's just a good thing that when you open up and when you give space and when you give platform, that you get so much more back than what you could like have when you keep it to yourself, I guess. And I think that's something I feel, I don't know, I think for now that's like how I feel, that's the way to go. But I guess when you're starting off with something and you don't have anything, then it's also important that you keep it to yourself and be like aware, like that it really becomes the thing you want it to be. So you need to keep it to yourself, but it's just like at times you need to like rethink it, and then might like eventually open it up. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it kind of makes sense. Like, it sounds like it's like building an extremely robust foundation that other people can build things on top of, rather than like tear down, Because I think it could, I'm imagining a world where, Daily Dialogue could have like grown after like, let's say a year, and it wouldn't have had as like robust of a foundation. Something like, in some ways, something to like kind of rally around, right? There was like an attitude, there's a sort of perspective, there was like you as an individual. So that totally makes sense. And that's like a really cool way of like thinking about the longevity, or like the progression of like a larger studio. Cool. I think like we can, at this point, it would be cool to kind of open it up. I don't know if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute and ask away. Well, Max, I have
from my side.
What's up?
Confusing lecture from my side.
No. I think people tend to be shy. I think, there is one last thing. I feel like this is somewhat of a cliche and glib question, but where do you see Daily Dialogue and Squama kind of going from here? Are there any aspirations, any other things similar to like the gallery show in Tokyo that you would love to do that you haven't quite done yet, that you see either of these places offering an outlet for you?
I think with Squama, we definitely want to do, or like from my point of view, I want to do more like event kind of things. Like I want to have more like situations where you get in touch with the audience, I just want this thing to be whatever it wants to be, It doesn't necessarily like, obviously it's a record label and it's the thing what we do and that's what we love, and music is a thing that can always be there, but it can be an exhibition, it can be like a pop-up thing, whatever, it can be a conceptual art show. And I think that's what I really love. I just love working with other people and like feeling the energy that other people can bring in. And I also have a lot of energy to give, and I think it's just good to be in exchange with people. And that's, like, as coming back to daily dialogue, there's also exchange with clients, but it's always like dependent on somebody has like a job for us. Like obviously not all the time, but after all, it's like a job that we have. Like we need to earn money, so we need to do something, and it's not just about our own ideas. But with daily dialogue, I think it should also become like, or go back maybe a bit to being a bit more of a brand itself again. It was very like service oriented for a few years because there were so many jobs coming in, and I think it's also important to go back and show more like what we as a team want to do and the ideas that we have. And I think that's definitely what we're going to do in the near future.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, since there was an exhibition, is there going to be art? Yeah, maybe this question comes in maybe more about your art practice. Do you feel like more, and again, if I'm interpreting this question incorrectly, feel free to jump in, but do you feel like more capital A art is something that you personally are like looking to explore and do? Or do you see your design work as that? Self-initiated or not?
I think like what is art? I mean, it can like having a concept for an exhibition is also like a form of art, I guess. And design can also be art. I think for me, art thinking, like the way you think in art, or like graphic design is more like a tool for realizing ideas and like maybe even establishing like brands. I don't know if that's a thing, or maybe let's say establishing platforms. I guess that's what I want to do. I don't feel an urge to create like art at all. I think like I have so many things to do, like so many artworks for releases that I have to do, and that's where I put my ideas in. There's no need right now, or like no space or anything for me to create something that has no other purpose than living for itself. I rather use my time to do something as a collaboration. And you can call it a collaboration if I do an artwork for for a musician, it's also like collaborating. So yeah, no like proper art right now, I guess.
Cool. Yeah, no, I really like this idea of like establishing platforms. And I actually think that this last question is like a really important one, because I'm someone who, I went to grad school right when Instagram was coming out, and I saw like, I've seen and in some ways participated in the kind of transformation of and the formation of design Instagram. And I'm curious, like, how important is the visibility of the studio through Instagram? Like, how important is documentation for you in maintaining and sustaining the practice? Is that something that is constantly being thought of within the process of even making the work? Yeah.
I mean, you could talk about this for hours because it has so many layers, I think obviously it's important that you show what you do, because if you don't show anything, nobody knows what you do. So you don't, like, nobody can ask you, nobody can collaborate with you. So that's like a thing. But then also, I don't really believe in the concept of like giving that whole idea of like documentation more effort than doing the real design work. You know, I rather invest more time in doing something nice than investing an extra amount of time in documenting it. I think I really love people who never document stuff. I think it's really nice. I don't know how they survive.
Me neither.
But it's like I'm a big fan, and I totally believe in that, with the idea of like it's better spent there than there, because like that's where the work gets better. But I also personally I also love the new life that somebody like not somebody like a project gets when you document it. You know, it's also like creating a own life for itself. So I also enjoy it at the same time, and I think it's important that you put it on Instagram, but at the same time I feel that it's not reliable. You know, you never know if something like, I don't know, not that it's important, but it's also frustrating to put a lot of effort into something and then the algorithm don't really push it because it's not the way the algorithm thinks what people want to see. And I think that's like really like a very bad situation. Like, I think for us, we were quite early, and I remember like in the early days of Daily Dialogue, there was only like a chance to get like quite a good reach that we have now, because back in the days, it really worked that you could like just like publish good work at the right time, then it worked out. But these days, you never really know. It's just like unpredictable. It can be the best work that you do. It can be really nice, documented, and it just doesn't, like, nobody sees it. And I think still you have to do it, but I just don't care about it anymore, if it really works or not, like at all.
Yeah, and I think that this is something that, you know, over the course of all the lectures, again, a lot of people that tune in are younger designers, and it's something to realize that, you know, as you move through the Daily Dialogue Instagram, you're going through like a connection of friends and networks and doing work, and then someone else seeing that work. And again, like the work is creating the network, not so much like posting about the work is creating the network, you know? And I think, yeah, developing those like very tangible in-person connections and collaborating with your friends or like-minded individuals is something that is in some ways more important than getting, you know, 4,500 likes on a beautiful photograph of something, you know? At least that's how I've personally kind of come to terms with it, because the algorithm is crazy and there is nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
That I love. So.
Yeah, and also what it does, it creates like maybe not so obvious, but what it does is that you just like think that things should be a specific way, and I think that's like really bad. Like, how can original art or like original design, how can it be made when you think about if it works on Instagram or not? You know, you know, you can make the best work that looks shit on Instagram, and then on Instagram you get very bad like response, but like if you would meet in real life, it could be the most beautiful work. And I think you should not have this bad feeling about it just because of that platform, you know?
Totally.
And I think it's so limited there that I feel it's very dangerous in that sense, that you don't really feel free to create something that you feel is right, because you always like, nobody can like step away from thinking, at least for a second, how it lives like on Instagram.
No, yeah, and I think yeah, it's this idea of, you know, creating and showing. Design lives in context, right? It's like a response to like a real world problem or a real world condition, you know, like making a publication for an exhibition. And like so much of the way that design has changed through Instagram is like, and I think what you did was like really smart, is like you played with this mock-up concept in a very interesting way. But like today you have people making books that are like never going to live, only to create an image of graphic design rather than an actual piece of design. And that's something that is, you know, I think increasingly, I'm increasingly becoming more and more aware of that phenomenon, and I'm sure it's that way kind of everywhere. And that's why I really enjoy your work, is because I know that your work is actually real and it's very tactile. The records are real. You are hand stamping center labels, like they're going out. It's in response to like real music. And so much of design these days has become performative in I think like the worst way. So it's cool to see, you know, a studio like Daily Dialogue and a record label like Squama pushing back against that. Yeah, it's inspiring. It's cool. So.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, it was 7 hours that we spent, like 4 people here in the studio, like putting together, like assembling sticker packs and like stamping the records. And you could say like it's an effort that you don't want to make, but actually it was the best time, you know, people coming together, doing something together. That was a good thing. Like I know that we hand stamped each of those records, and I know that each of those stickers I had in my own hands. And as stupid as it sounds, but that really created a good communal feeling.
Totally.
And it's much better spent than sitting in front of the computer and like thinking if that's the better design or not. It was just good to use it and then go from there. But I know that it's like a very, yeah, it's like a special situation that you can just do that. I'm aware of that. But it was just good, yeah.
Cool.
It's good to do something, make it real.
Definitely. I think that's like a big takeaway. And we could kind of like end it there. It's like build platforms and make real things, and like build real relationships and real connections. Yeah, again, Max, I really appreciate you taking time out of your evening and joining us for this last lecture. I'm personally looking forward to seeing how like the studio and the label evolve. So again, thank you for taking time and sharing.
Yeah, thanks for inviting again. Sorry for maybe being unclear here and there. It's quite late. I was a bit nervous in the beginning. Improvising has its downsides too, but I hope you could follow and get something out here and there. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Cool.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, we appreciate you. Have a nice night.
Yeah, thanks. Have a nice day.
Cool. See ya.